Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Yeah, my name is Todd Stumbo. I live right outside of Atlanta, a little town called Canton, Georgia, and I'm the CEO out at Blue Ridge Mountain Recovery Center.
Awesome. So can you just tell me more what Blue Ridge Mountain Recovery Center is and who you serve?
Yeah, so we're a subsidiary of Acadia Healthcare, which is the largest behavioral healthcare company in the U.S. And what we designed Blue Ridge 12 years ago to do was serve the blue collar population. We wanted to give them a high-end experience at a lower cost. So right off the bat, we were in network with all major insurances. That way we could serve those folks. Generally, most people that were coming in were only paying a few $100s to maybe a couple thousand for their deductibles, things like that. Normally, treatment like us, you're typically gonna pay $50,000 to $70,000 for a 30-day stay. So we were able to target that blue collar population, give them that high-end experience up here in Ball Ground, Georgia. So we're located on 40 acres of kind of mountainous terrain. So it's pretty serene. You got a lot of woods, wildlife, things like that. And the whole premise was, I got sober 19 years ago. And what I remember when I got sober was the way I got treated. It wasn't the treatment that I got provided. It was how I was treated as a human being. So I got hired on at Blue Ridge as the clinical director initially to create culture. And the culture was one of servant leadership and how do we serve people, that are struggling with addiction and alcoholism? Because at that point, in that time, I've been doing this 19 years, there is a heavy stereotype around those people that struggle with mental health, addiction issues, things like that. So the treatment center I went through was so small and it was kind of off the radar. The way they approached treatment was not about the treatment itself, but again, how they showed up for another human being. And that's what we started to do here is come from a place of true service and not from a knowledge base. So you get a lot of people that go to school and get highly educated on how to do a therapy, but they're not very good with people, and therefore the therapy is not very impactful. So our platform was, hey, let's build this culture of service and make it about people, and then we'll add in the knowledge. So 12 years later, that's where we've gotten it to where we're able to provide a ton of trauma work. We use EMDR, something called rapid resolution therapy, accelerated resolution therapy, experiential therapy. Obviously throw in our secondary modalities, CBT, DBT, those things that everybody uses. But what sets us apart is how we treat the human being coming into our care. I tell people all the time, can't put it on paper, but if you come out here and you feel the experience in the culture, you'll see what I'm talking about. So that's kind of us in a nutshell.
So do you have people that come out from all over the country, or is it just in Georgia? Because you mentioned that you're on 40 acres. So I can imagine lots of people would love to come out there to be treated and also this personalized way.
Yeah, it's all over the country. I mean, we've had folks from Alaska, Ireland, Hawaii. The majority are, yes, in the region here in the Southeast, but we do get people all over the country that come in. Men, women, we're 18 and up. A lot of folks say, well, hey, I don't want gender, one that's co-ed. Well, for us, again, I go back to the blue collar worker. The blue collar worker doesn't have the finances to do long-term treatment. So what happens to them when they leave a 35-day program like us, their number one resource is a 12-step support group, which is a blend of men and women. So we teach them here how to do that and how to have relationships in a healthy way that are not, the staples aren't of intimacy, so to speak. It's more about a connection of people staying sober. So that's why we have it co-ed, is we knew starting off the blue collar worker could not afford that long-term treatment. So we had to give them everything we had in a 35-day period.
Makes sense. So when you're treating people, is it only for alcoholism or do you do other sorts of addiction as well?
It's anything that's related to a substance addiction. Now the secondary, so let's just say you had somebody with a sex addiction or a gambling addiction, we'll do that on a secondary basis. So the primary diagnosis has to be a substance use addiction, and then the secondary can be something of that nature.
Makes sense. So what would you say is the biggest challenge that you face in the business today?
Probably, so I'm on this kick right now, and then people see my social media or whatever. I'm on this kick of healing healthcare. The system is, here's my take on it. Now, I may upset people, but that's okay. The system is broken because we have people that are broken, and you can't fix a broken system. You have to fix the broken people. So everybody blames these corporate people and this, that, and the other of like, oh, they're putting too much on us and that. My experience in the way I've lived and done this work for 19 years is one, I look at myself as the whole person, physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. If I'm not running on all cylinders on all five of those, then I can be broken, right? Well, my belief system and the power I call greater than me won't let me just get burnt out like people claim because of what corporate is pushing on me, right? So for me, it's a mindset. And we started it here of healing healthcare. This whole push this year was about being a coffee bean. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Damon West and John Gordon, but Damon West, it's his story, but he calls it how to be a coffee bean. And what it really says is if you got a carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean, and you take a pot of boiling water and you were to put the carrot that's really hard and stiff, you put it in that boiling water after 20 minutes, so you pull it out, it's weakened, it's softened up, but you take that egg, it's got that hard outer shell, soft inside, you put it in there, when it comes out, its heart's hardened, the inside has changed. But if you put that coffee bean in that water, something strange happens. The coffee bean never changes. The coffee bean, in fact, changes the exact circumstance that it's in, and that's the water. It turns it into coffee. And that's our push in healthcare is we, the people, us, the coffee beans, we have to change the water that we're in. We can't rely on people above us and corporations to do that. So I think the biggest struggle that we face is enough people getting off of their quote unquote pity pots and blaming corporate and taking responsibility today for me, because the patient in front of me, that's who I impact. So if my attitude is not in check and I'm not in a healthy space and I'm resentful at corporate, then my attitude is going to impact that client that I'm trying to serve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I feel like many people in the space, they have challenges with staffing. So do you have that challenge? Because you mentioned earlier that you have lots of space and you offer personalized experience. So do you have, challenges finding not only people, but good people to serve your patients?
I personally think we have the best in the country. Now, do we struggle with getting more of those? Absolutely. And again, it goes back to the people in healthcare have gotten sick, right? So I believe this is we've shifted from, you get into healthcare, human services, nursing, all that. It never was designed, I'm going to go do this for the money. Now that's exactly what it's about. So I look at it as it's a twofold switch. Is the first thing I got to do is change the way I think, and that's through states of gratitude. If I change the way I think by having a state of mind that's grateful for things, what it does is goes down to my heart and changes my heart and becomes generous. Now it's not about the money. It's about how much can I give of myself and what I have resource wise to influence the people that are in front of me. So the staffing issues we face are generally because people are wanting amounts of money that our system is not going to pay. Because then you create this equity issue with certain people. But that when COVID hit, it just destroyed a lot of that, because so many people were leaving the industry that they just started paying people whatever they could pay to get them to come in. And now it's kind of stuck. And that's one of the biggest challenges we face is how do you balance it back out to what's reasonable to where you can pay people, they can live, survive, they have great lives, but at the same time, you can also invest the money back into your program and continue to make it better and improve it as it goes along.
Makes sense. So I guess, how do you promote the business in a sense, kind of like what you're telling me, right? Because yeah, of course, there's a limit to how much you can pay, but also you offer this environment. It's personalized, that you care about your employees. Like many of these large hospitals don't offer that same work experience that you're offering. So how do you promote that to people who are potentially interested in working for you?
Well, usually it'll be me or my HR director or one of the other directors that know the story of Blue Ridge, right? So we want to tell them that story and impact them, whether it's through a Zoom call. ideally they'll come out, and once they go into the culture, it's a whole different experience. They're like, oh no, this is a whole different thing than working in a hospital or anywhere else. So it's generally going to be when they call us and they get on the phone with us, the first thing we're going to do is tell our story and try to make an impact, and then ask them what their story is. And 9 out of 10 times, most people that want to work here, they're saying, oh, well, I have a family member or somebody I know struggle with addiction, and I'm interested in how all that works. So there's already this curiosity that they have about the environment. And when they see it online and see this 8,000 square foot mountain mansion, it's not a hospital. It doesn't resemble, it's a home converted into treatment. And they're like, oh, this is so different than what I'm used to working in a hospital.
Makes sense. So what about from the patient side? I'm sure that you probably have patients that are not sure if you're like the right choice for them. So if they're engaging with you on your website or calling, like how do you make sure that they are, for them, I guess, rest assured that they're making the right decision by going with your clinic?
Right. Well, we tell people all the time, we're not the right fit for everybody. So we do a pretty extensive assessment. We do 6 different assessments by the time they first check in with us. And we're able to tell you after the first 2, will they be a fit from a treatment standpoint, right? Then they get here and their personalities may be different. They may struggle with things we didn't see or they didn't tell us on the front end. So the next 4 assessments help us determine, hey, will this person be a good fit for our milieu and our, the other folks here? Because sometimes they're just not. And at that point, when that happens, what we got to do is work with that client, with the families and other sources out there, the programs of, hey, can we get a transfer in place to get them to where they need to go? Because we aren't the best fit for everybody.
Yeah, of course. So what would you say is your top business priority in the next few months, like as you wrap up this year and start 2024?
Right. The top business priority is to ensure that we continue to lead this industry in regards to the care for veterans. We started this a few years ago when nobody was really taking care of the vets except the VAs. And now tons of programs are doing it, and it's pretty awesome to see. But we've now opened up, we got our detox, our residential, but we've now opened up homes in the community where they're staying with us. We got some have been here over a year, and they're reintegrating or going back to school. They're getting even counselor certifications while they're here, different things like that. So our real big push is to continue that move forward, because there are so many vets that aren't getting the care that they need. And many here in Atlanta that you see are they're flat out homeless, and the VA doesn't have the ability to house them long term, whether it's funding or whatever they're going through. Well, we'll play our part, and we will house as many as we can, provide that treatment that we can for as long as they'll allow us. So that's our big push in 2024, is to stay out in front of caring for those veterans, making sure we're clinically out front and leading the pack on the therapies that work the best. So used to, it was EMDR. Everybody was big on EMDR. Well, what we've seen with our veterans is accelerated resolution therapy is actually much more beneficial to them, and it has much more of an impact. So a lot of, and I know it takes, environments are different and all that, but a lot of what you may read may not be that applicable in the actual environment. And we see it all the time, whether press is pushing a certain therapy, all that. We've steered away from like the acupunctures and things like that. We haven't tried to get into those amenities. What we want to do is we want to transform those people's lives, those veterans that come to us. Acupuncture ain't going to do it. It's got to be getting what I call brain and heart coherent. When they can connect those, it was what happened to me, man. When I got sober and I connected those two, dude, it was off to the races. Here I was, a drug-induced, psychotic guy trying to get sober. I tell people my story from psychosis to CEO, like mind-blowing. How does that even happen? And for me, it's been God coming into my life and being able to connect that brain-heart coherence and put me on a path that I need to be on. When I even got the job as a CEO, I had no qualification to do this work. It was the fact that I'm willing to put the next foot in front of the other. And I'm a different CEO than what you'll probably find most places. I don't sit in boardrooms. I don't crunch numbers. I run group. I go over, hang out with the staff. I cut grass. I do admissions work. because I need to be around people. I need to make connections. I got a phenomenal CFO that handles the rest of it. When I have to show up and she says, hey, I need you to look at these things, I'll do it. But at the end of the day, man, it's our impact for the 2024 is to continue to be out in the community, just creating a tidal wave of transformation.
Awesome. So let's just talk about you being a CEO, right? Because you mentioned, I mean, that's very impressive. So what would you say is like the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before you jumped into the CEO role?
Man, well, there's several, but the biggest thing I would tell people, or the thing I wish I would have known initially, was how much it tried to pull me out of what I was passionate about. Because all of a sudden I went from being the clinical director involved every day with these clients to few days a week to being over here in our business office. And man, I started getting depressed because I was like, if this is what this is, I don't know that I want to do it. You know, I wasn't the guy to sit over here and create strategy. I was the guy to be implementing. I'm probably a much better COO than CEO, but I've been blessed here by Acadia to be able to come in and do both and be in the program, do that kind of stuff. But you're just not prepared. It doesn't look like you thought it would look. And when I got into it, I experienced some depression, questioning, is this really what I wanted to do? And what it led me to, though, was being able to lean into my staff. So though I don't get to spend as much time with the clients, I now got the staff that I can coach, I can lean into, I can guide, I can lift them up. And it's probably been the most rewarding part of this job, is to watch somebody that was like me that really didn't have the opportunity, didn't have the background to do the work. And I can coach, teach, train, and then raise them up into a position that they would have never had anywhere else. So for me, I would look at it and say, it's just, I wasn't prepared for how isolated it is. They say you're alone at the top. I felt that for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it's like with any CEO role, you can never be 100% ready, right? Because you're going to jump in and do something that you've never done before, and you're doing it your way, as you said, right? Because you're also sort of in the business and you're doing strategy, but you're like making sure that like you're also doing what you enjoy doing, and that's really important.
Right.
So in terms of, this business, what would you say things will look like if we have the same conversation in 1 year from now?
In healthcare in general, or just the
Just like
addiction
in your
space?
just like in your space, or like in your business specifically, and at Blue Ridge Mountain.
Oh, well, just here, man, we're going to be on fire. I can tell you a year from now, we're probably going to I got 4 houses outside of here now that we'll put veterans in. You're probably looking at minimum 6 at that point. The hope is to add a whole nother 24 beds to our main property and grow that business too. But yeah, no, we're going to be on fire, man. We've made a pact to ourselves. It's like, we want to be the best version of ourselves as possible. I quit competing with other programs a long time ago, because I found that to be, there's no significance there, right? But if I come in every day and I say, well, is this the best version of Blue Ridge today? Did we show up as a staff? And man, we just keep getting better. I love the aspects of the business where you have turnover and different people come in and you have different leadership and opportunities. And it gives me a chance to let that person fly and take us to the next level. Because I tell people all the time, I don't lead this. All I am is a servant to the other folks. My staff are the one that runs Blue Ridge and leads Blue Ridge. I'm here as a total support. It's the upside down triangle. I'm on the bottom, they're on the top, and I'm just here to help them move forward. But yeah, a year from now, man, we're gonna be on fire and hopefully spreading all over the country.
No, yeah, that's exciting, and we're rooting for you. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out, do you mind sharing your company website or social media, just best way to get in contact with you?
On the company website is just the www.blueridgemountainrecovery.com. That's blueridgemountainrecovery.com, all spelled out, unfortunately. Now, if you want to directly get in touch with me, totally fine with that. Todd, Todd, period, Stumbo, Stumbo, at blueridgemountainrecovery.com. Longest emails in the world, but that's what it is. Then on social media, you just put our name in, Blue Ridge Mountain Recovery, and you'll see us pop up. I do videos every day. The John Gordon Damon West Coffee Bean book. I'm shooting a video giving the daily affirmation or the daily lesson. So you'll get it. Follow us doing that. We get into all kinds of stuff, man. So yeah, you can look us up. Find us, follow us, call us, whatever.
Sounds great. Well, yeah, awesome. Well, Todd, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Bye.
See you.